Hi, I am Tammy Marshall, and I am here in Mexico at my friend's house, actually. I'm married in Mexico. The friend to whom I actually dedicated my book, Trouble on Tybee. Her name is Sylvia. This is actually the book that I sent her and that I signed inside for her. I'm here for a few weeks, um, and I'm outside. So we're going to see how this actually goes because there's a lot of commotion going around the neighborhood. There's a lot of music playing. There's cars. There's dogs barking. So we're going to see how well this actually turns out. But I'm going to attempt to read for you chapters 4 and even maybe 5 from Trouble on Tybee. So if you haven't seen the prologue and the first 3 chapters, you might want to watch those videos and then come back to this, okay? So here's chapter 4. It's called A Brother. The next day, the next day was a Saturday. Despite my fears that I wouldn't be able to sleep after reading Mother's first novel, exhaustion got the best of me, and I dropped into a deep sleep soon after crawling into bed. I woke early, though, and wandered the rooms of Mother's house. It was painfully clear that I hadn't made much of a dent in sorting her belongings. I was going to need help if I expected to finish, but I knew I wasn't ready to part with most of her things, and I really wasn't ready to sell her beloved Tybee Island writer's retreat. The small bungalow felt like home to me, and that feeling was growing with each passing day that I spent there. Everything in the house held such a connection to Mother that I couldn't imagine anyone else living in her space or using her things, should I ever manage to part with them. I looked at the clock and calculated the 1 hour time difference. Even though I doubted my brother in Chicago was up on a Saturday at 6 a.m., I decided to call him anyway. After 2 rings, his phone switched to voicemail, as I imagined it would. Not wishing to leave a message, I hung up. Before I had time to set the phone down, though, it buzzed in my hand. I checked the screen and shook my head. You could have just answered, I said in lieu of a more standard greeting. John's grumpy, sleepy voice retorted, I was asleep, Stace. I heard him yawn. What's up? Tell Monica I'm sorry I woke her. Even as I said this, I cringed. My sister-in-law, my sister-in-law and I were not close. I'd simply said that to be polite, and I didn't expect a reply from John. But his non-reply extended into complete silence. I checked the display. We were still connected. Before I could say anything else, he finally said, Yeah, I'll do that. You going to tell me why you woke me up Jesus, at 6 in the morning on a Saturday? Before I could answer, he asked, Something happened to Randall? I frowned at the strangeness of his question. Why would he think something had happened to my husband? No, nothing has happened. I wanted to ask you if you'd be all right with not selling Mother's house for a while. He was quiet. I waited, knowing he wasn't at full mental capacity until after his morning shower and coffee. Then he simply asked, Why? Well, a few reasons. First, there's so much to go through, and a lot I'd like to keep, but I don't know where I'd put it. He sighed audibly and grumpily. Just sell everything, Stacy. There's nothing. I interrupted. No. Maybe you don't have any sentimental connections to other stuff, but I do. I don't see why you do. She was a shitty mother who drove our father away and then never had time for us. Because she was making a living to take care of us. I rolled my eyes and started to pace the floor of the small kitchen. My initial plan, to ask him to come back and help me sort Mother's things, now abandoned. Listen, we'll never see eye to eye about her, and it doesn't matter now because she's gone. I just want to know if you'll agree to me staying here a while to sort things without the pressure of a selling deadline hanging over me. Now's the optimum selling time, though. People will be looking for a beach house to buy before summer comes, and I could really use the money right now. Anger or frustration had crept into his voice. I scowled. My brother managed a string of high-end apartment complexes where each unit had a view of Lake Michigan and commanded a hefty rent. How could he possibly be short on cash? My scowl deepened. Monica. She was extremely high maintenance. John must squander every dime he earned on keeping her happy. Well, I wasn't about to rush into selling Mother's beloved Tybee house to make Monica happy. I had remained silent so long that John must have felt the need to placate me. Besides the sorting time, why else don't you want to sell it yet? He asked, his voice much friendlier than it had been. I looked across the front yard and recalled the slash of blue that was visible from the street corner. The sun was surely washing the ocean with its brilliance on this cloudless morning. I had a sudden desire to go walk along the beach. Tybee was so different from Iowa, and the longer I stayed away from Des Moines, the less I wanted to go back, for many reasons, besides Iowa's utter dearth of oceanside properties. Finally, I said, I want to spend more time here. Soak it all in. Once we do sell the house, I'm sure I'll never be back. I can't explain it right now, John, but I need this. I felt tears threatening to come, so I squeezed my eyes shut and breathed deeply. What does Randall say about that? I crossed to the front door. I didn't want to get into a discussion with my brother about my husband or any of my other personal problems, so I lied a little. I haven't mentioned it to him. I stepped onto the porch and breathed in the cool, salty air. John was more astute than I like to give him credit for. You two having marital problems? Is that why you want to stay there? No. Well, maybe, but that's nothing new. Time apart could do us both some good, but I really need more time to adjust to Mother's death, to figure out when and where to sell or store everything, and to think about some things. John chuckled. Midlife crisis, huh? I don't know. Maybe. I've been stuck in a rut for so long that I don't even know who I am anymore. I felt myself getting worked up. And before I could stop myself, I blurted, "You're the one who's always called me an ostrich, right? I stick my head in the sand and accept whatever comes my way. Never complain. So why are you complaining now, John? Now, when I finally want to take time for myself and figure some things out." John interrupted me. "Okay, Stacy, take as long as you need. But we'll have to sell the house eventually, unless..." Unless what? Seabirds swirled above the rooftops. I was itching to walk along the beach and watch the birds in action as they skimmed right above the water, searching for their next meal. "Unless you want to buy me out. Mom owned the house outright, but I'm entitled to half the selling price. I figure we could get about 600,000, maybe even a bit more, if we can, cash in on her authorial fame and sell it to someone who cares about that. You have $300,000 lying around somewhere that you can pay me and we'll call it even? If so, keep the house and take as long as you want to go through her stuff." You know that I don't have that kind of money, John. If I did, I'd gladly give it to you and stay on here indefinitely. I'm simply asking for more time. He sighed. "All right, let's agree on a month for now. We'll reassess things then. It'll still give us time to sell before summer. Not much time, but enough if it sells fast, which it should." I nodded and looked at the other houses that I could see from the porch. Most of them were newer two-story homes built to withstand hurricane-strength winds. I was confident that Mother's one-story cinder brick house was rugged enough to weather heavy winds too. After all, it had been built many years ago and was still standing. John was probably right. The house would easily and quickly sell, even though it was smaller and older than the neighboring houses. A young couple was walking by on the street, getting some morning exercise by the looks of their pace, and one of them waved at me. When I returned her wave, she called, "Sorry for your loss. I love your mom's books." Her partner waved too, and he added a quick thumbs up sign before they passed out of sight. I could accomplish a lot of sorting and thinking in a month, and I could already feel my spirits lifting. "It's a deal, thanks. If I get done earlier, I'll let you know." Feeling relieved and much calmer now that he'd agreed to my request, I added, "You could always come back and help me too. He grunted. Not happening. I'm sorry she's gone, Stacy, but I seldom talk to her, and I don't want any of her crap. Just sort it, toss it, sell it, whatever. You can keep all the profit from that. After all, you're doing the work, but I want my half of the house. I scowled again. I found it oddly unfair that despite his long-standing rift with Mother, John still wanted his fair share of her estate. Since Mother had no formal will that we knew of, I'd need to divide the house proceeds with John, or I'd need to buy him out. I couldn't imagine how I could ever afford to do that, though, even if I did want to keep the house. I recalled Milton's estimate of possible royalties on a posthumous book. Maybe there would be a way, but I doubted I could convince Milton to give me a $300,000 advance against any sales. I doubted that very much. I'll call you in a few weeks, I said. After hearing his gruff goodbye, I hung up and went back into the house to change into my walking clothes. Thank you for joining me. Uh, look, go back again and read the earlier part, or listen to the earlier parts, and I hope you'll pick up your own copy of Trouble on Tybee.